Hi, I'm Sean. Welcome to MacGyver's Garage. Spray paint. Spray paint is a pretty versatile product, and I don't think there's anybody on the planet that doesn't use spray paint at one time or another. I do all kinds of various projects, from working on cars and trucks to lawn mowers to projects around the house. And nothing looks better when you get done working on something than to grab a can of spray paint and give it a coat, right? So let's just say you're working on a project and you think to yourself, I got just the right color spray paint sitting up there on the shelf in the garage. And you get done with your project, you go and you mask it off, you're going to do whatever you're going to do with it, you wipe it all off nice and clean, and you go over there in the cabin, and you pick up that can of spray paint, and you bring it back, and you shake it up, and you push the button, and nothing happens. So what do? So you sit there and you start taking your fingernail and you rub the end of the nozzle with it, right? And you're spraying it and it still doesn't come up. You start wiggling it around, shaking the can some more, and nothing comes out of the end of the thing, right? And you're like, man. Well, what I generally do every time I throw away a can of spray paint, I always save the nozzles, right? So I have a spray can that doesn't want to work. I'll go ahead and I'll pull the nozzle off, and I'll look around in my little stash here, and I'll find another nozzle that's the same, and I'll pop it on there, and I'll give it another try. And it still doesn't work. Well, this one does work a little bit. It just kind of sputtered a little bit, and then it stopped. So, again, you can keep looking for more nozzles, and maybe you might get lucky and find one that works. But it's another alternative. What I generally do, especially when you have like a half a can or more of spray paint, you don't want to just throw it away, right? So you need to get some way to get this material out of the can. So what I generally do is, and it tells you right on the back of this can right here, almost every spray can that you buy, it says on the back, do not puncture, right? So what are we going to do? Yeah, we're going to puncture it, right? So let me show you how this works, okay? Before I do that, let me tell you about how we're going to spray this material. So this little spray gun I have, this little detail spray gun, I got this at Harbor Freight, and I got this probably about 10 years ago. I also have another one that's the same one, same thing, but it's just a little bit older. It's probably about 15 years old. This one has a regulator on the bottom of it, so it can adjust the airflow. You don't need a regulator, you can do without it. But what, of course, you are going to need is an air compressor. So you don't need a big air compressor. You can use either a little pancake air compressor or a big air compressor. Doesn't matter, but you're going to need some kind of supply of air. And if you're doing any kind of projects in a garage, whether it's working on cars or otherwise, you're going to need an air compressor. So if you don't have one, you're going to need to find one. I've done all kinds of things working on cars, and I started out with just like a little 1 horsepower compressor from Sears years ago, and I bought it used for $50. And I used that compressor for a good 20 years, and it was so bad that there was a belt that goes from the compressor to the motor, and the belt was it was like a serpentine belt, and the belt started falling apart, and the shreds of rubber were coming off. So I would wrap it with some masking tape, and it would keep it going. And I did that for 20 years on that same belt. And when I went and got myself a bigger compressor, like the one over here in the corner, I went ahead and sold that 1 horsepower compressor that I have, and I believe I sold it for $50. Like I said, it doesn't matter what size compressor you need, but you already need an air compressor in order to use a spray gun. This little Harbor Freight gun, they make, I believe, is exactly the same model right now. I think right now they're about $12 at Harbor Freight. And I tell you what, these things are more than worth it. These things work really well. It's only, I think it's only a 4-ounce cup, and it's designed for detail work. But the spray that comes out is far superior than what's going to come out of a spray can. All right. So let me show you how we're going to use this thing. All right. I'm going to move the camera. We're going to take a look at what I'm going to do to this can. Okay. All right. So one of the important things is you need to put your spray can in some type of a device or something to hold it from moving around. Okay. So I just put it in here. I'm going to tighten it down so the spray can's not going to move. Okay. Now, this can is under pressure. So if I go and just start jabbing a hole in there, I'm going to get paint spraying all over the place. It's all over me and all over everything else in the room. Right. So I need to create a very small hole and start letting the pressure out. So I have a little screwdriver here. You can use a pick or something else. So you see I'm just going to go ahead and just puncture the top just a little bit, just so I can get some of the air to leak out. I don't know if you can hear that. The air is starting to come out of it now. So I'm going to let it sit there for a little while and let some of that air come out. I'm going to make that hole just a little bit bigger. There we go. Can you hear the air coming out of there? All right, so we're going to let that sit for a moment and let it depressurize. Now, keep in mind that even though we let the air out of here, the paint that's in here is almost like a can of soda, meaning that it almost seems like it's almost like it's carbonated. So when you start taking the paint out of here, you're going to see it's all kind of bubbly, like a can of soda pop, right? But the longer you let it sit, the more a lot of that carbonation type of to it is going to make it go away. All right. So while that paint is depressurizing, let me just show you something else here. I got a can here somewhere. Where is it? Here we go. Here's a can of aluminum spray paint. And this one here, I poked a hole in it, I don't know, 3 or 4 months ago. And the paint is still good inside there. It's about a half a can right now. And I just take it, when I'm not using it, I just take a piece of tape and I cover over the hole. And if you can see that or not, there's a little hole poked in there. And I just put a piece of tape over it. And that keeps it from drying up in the can, right? So I'm ready for my next project. So let's, I'm going to use this gun here because it's got the regulator on it. And I think our paint is about ready right now, so let me go get it. All right, so like I said, this is fresh. Since I just made the hole in here, the paint that's in here is going to be kind of fizzy. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of dump some of this into the spray gun. You have to be careful it doesn't go everywhere. Okay, so I got a little bit of paint in there. And I'll go ahead and cover that up with a piece of tape later. Alright, so I got my spray, I got my paint here in my cup, right? And what's nice about the spray can paint is that it's already thinned down. It's all ready to spray. All you got to do is put it in there and go. So let me plug it into my air. Test it out. Pressure's a little high. I'm going to turn it down just a little bit. That's pretty good. We'll test it out on something, make sure it's working. All right, so here we go. So now, one nice thing about the this little gun right here is you have two controls on here. The top control here controls how big of a fan that you're going to have. You can get it down to where it's round, or you can spread it out like a fan. So you can adjust that whatever way you need to have it for the particular item that you're going to paint. This other knob here controls how much paint is coming out. Now you can adjust this and decide how much paint you want to come out, or you can kind of vary how much paint's coming out by how far you pull the trigger in, okay? So anyway, let's, I got a little part here that I'm going to paint, and it's a little piece from my car here, and here we go. So, look at, oh, my pressure's still a little high. Turn it down a little bit more. There we go. A little better if it wasn't moving around so much. There we go. Okay, there we go. There's our part. Okay? Now just go ahead and hang that up somewhere, let it dry. Actually, I'll put a little bit more on there. Alright. So we'll hang that up to dry. Okay? So, the only drawback about taking the paint out of the cup right there is you got to clean out the gun. All right? So, with most spray paint, the majority of spray paint will clean up with mineral spirits. So, somebody taught me a long time ago how they clean out their spray gun, and I'll pass that on to you. So, first off, you want to get as much paint as you possibly can out of the cup. I'm going to grab a paper towel right back. All right. So, I'm going to go ahead and mop up some of the paint out of the bottom of this cup right here, just to make it clean it a little bit easier. There we go. That's good. All right. So here I got some mineral spirits. I'm just going to put just a little bit in the cup right here. Switch it around. Maybe just a tad more. I'm going to switch it around. I'm going to put the cap on it. I'll go ahead and switch it around a couple times. Then I'll squeeze the trigger and let it drip out into my rag. Okay? Once I've done that, I'll do a little bit more. There's a little bit left in there. Now I'll go ahead and get all that into my rag, and now usually take that rag and use that to help wipe up the rest of the gun right here. There we go. Wipe out the inside again just a little. Alright, there we go. That's pretty good. Alright? Alright, so I've always heard best way to clean out the spray gun, do everything 3 times. So that's one. I already did it once. I'm going to switch that around again. Make sure my cup's clean. I'll spray it into my rag. There we go. That's 2. Right? Clean up the nozzle a little bit. Make sure if I have any extra paint laying around here, I can get all that cleaned up. There we go. Looks pretty good. And one more time. And again, you don't need much in here. You just need just enough to clean it. Switch it around, make sure it's good and clean. Squirt it out into my rag. Right? Like that. Now, since I only cleaned that since I only sprayed a little bit, the gun obviously didn't get very dirty doing so. But if I were to spray this for a while, I'm going to need to clean this gun a little bit better. And like I was saying before, these guns work really well as long as you keep them clean. Right? So what I do to clean this thing is I take off the the head, and you have what you have is an outer ring. You have a little knot, this little, what this little thing here is, it directs the air of how the paint is going to come out of the gun, right? So that needs to be cleaned. So generally what I do is I will take something, some kind of a top to something, and I'll take this little nozzle here and I'll put it in there, and I'll put a little thinner in there and switch it around and make sure it's clean. Then take a little wrench, and if you hold down the trigger, there's a little needle in here, so you hold down the trigger and you can put your little wrench on the end of this nozzle and take the nozzle off. The reason why you're squeezing the trigger is so you're not rubbing the nozzle against the needle that's inside the spray gun, because you don't want to wear the needle out. So now that I've taken this little nozzle out here, I'll drop that in my little cup, and then I will go ahead and I will take a little bit of thinner, and I'll put just a little bit there in the cup and swish it around. Take my rag here and make sure my needle, be careful with the needle, you don't bend it. Wipe the needle off, make sure it's good, make sure everything is good and clean. If you've used the sprayer a lot, you might need to take the lid off and pour some more thinner in here and let it, and as soon as you pour it in, it's going to come out the end right here. Just to make sure it's good and clear. I only used it for a moment, so it didn't get that dirty. All right, so once I'm done with my little pieces here, after they've soaked, I'll go ahead and put them back into the spray gun again. And again, just like I did in reverse, I'm going to take my trigger, I'm going to squeeze it, and I'm going to put that nozzle back on, I'm going to screw it all the way down, snug it down with my wrench, and then I can let go, right? Then I'll take my little air valve, little air diverter there, and put that on the top, and screw the ring back on the top of it again. Okay, there's one more step to this. Okay, the last step I'm going to do is I'm going to take some oil, doesn't matter what kind of oil, and I'm going to squeeze the trigger, and there's that little needle valve that ran back and forth. You can see it on the side of the gun. I'm going to squeeze it, and I'm going to put just a drop of oil on that little needle, and then squeeze it a couple times. And if there is any little bit of paint residue on there, that oil is going to keep it from gumming up, and it keeps that valve working real nice, okay? And it also helps keep the seal that's in there from drying out. Okay? One little drop of oil, okay? All right, so there you have it. That's what to do with a can of spray paint when it doesn't want to work anymore, right? So rather than go out and spending $8, $10, $12 on a can of spray paint, just pick this up one of these little sprayers and spray it that way. Now one thing that's nice about using a little spray gun like this, let's say you want some gray paint, you want to spray some gray. Well, you got a can of white and you got a can of black. Well, what do you think? Mix them together, right? Mix them together, get the right shade of gray that you want, put it in your spray gun, away you go, right? Now you got great paint, right? So, good way to save some money, and this little spray gun, you got to see how handy this is. One thing that works really nice, let's say you have something to paint that is really deep, and you're trying to reach down into something to paint it. And the spray can nozzle, you spray it, and it's putting out a spray, but it's only going 8 to 10 inches, and you need to reach way down in there. Well, what you can do is you can turn the air up just a little bit in your spray gun, turn the fan pattern all the way down so you have a stream, like a round stream coming out, and you can shoot that paint way down in there. You can shoot that paint like a couple feet down inside of something. So that works really well on a little spray gun like this, right? So I hope you got something from watching that, and if you do me a favor and subscribe, so I got a lot more tips and tricks to show you that I've learned through the years out here in the garage that's going to, one, save you some money, and how to improvise when you don't really have necessarily the tool for the job and you need to get something done, right? So stay tuned. We'll see you next time.